The reason I fell in love with journalism so quickly, because I really knew nothing about it, this was a year and a half ago, is because I noticed you can actually help promote change.
So I think it's incredibly important for students to be able to, within reason, have an unrestricted voice on campus.
When people are being siphoned, away from the stories that they want to do, that presents an issue.
When there's some governing body, someone else there who has ulterior motives, who's always thinking, I want Niagara to look this way, or I want Buff State to look this way, they can control the content of your paper. And that totally sacrifices the integrity, and it hurts your educational experience because you're not learning journalism, you're learning public relations.
College news publications across the United States come in many forms, from print newspapers and magazines to video newscasts, and now more recently to online blog sites. Regardless of how news is received, these media outlets are at the center of student communication and vital in generating a public space for free discourse. Whether reporting on an exciting victory over a rival team or exposing the dangers of housing off campus, the college community relies on a campus news to educate them on important issues. College journalists have an obligation to deliver unfiltered information to the student body. But what happens when this voice is weakened by administrative guidelines? Do student journalists have the added protection they deserve? Out of the 50 states in the United States, only 8 have free expression laws protecting student journalists. 2 states have protection for student speech rights and education code. This leaves 40 states that lack added protection for student journalists.
The press is, historically supposed to be the voice of the people, and we as a people rely on the press to report the news and give us accurate facts. And if that were prohibited in any way, it would really be defeating the purpose of the press.
Unfortunately, private universities are not awarded the same privileges as public institutions.
In the public school setting, I think that you're going to probably have a wider array of things that you can address in the newspaper, because there aren't private objectives also mixed in.
Niagara University, home of the Purple Eagles, prides itself on delivering education that will make a difference. Despite the strong values expressed in this statement, the news publications on the Niagara campus have struggled to achieve an active student voice. The Niagara Index is the nation's 3rd oldest college newspaper and should be an ideal place to inform and educate the students. But, according to one of the current editors, the Index has lost its voice in the student community due to censorship issues.
The censorship was a big thing. Students couldn't publish what they wanted when they wanted. Editorials had to be siphoned as well, due to the fact that it had to be kept in Niagara University's Vincentian values and Catholic values, and administration would sometimes not agree with what we wanted to say, and we would have to censor it. So we kind of lost a little bit of voice there. The biggest thing last year, we did a story on the Canada directive in which students couldn't hold events in Canada due to the whole drinking age discrepancy, 19 over the border and 21 over here. We did release a story, however, many student opinions had to be omitted from it because of the fact that it touched on very sensitive issues. Any opinions regarding the matter that might have been reflected negatively on school administration couldn't be included in the story.
The Office of Campus Activities is in charge of overseeing many functions of the student body, including the Niagara Index. They have a difficult job of maintaining a positive image of the school, while also allowing students to report freely on news topics.
There's a very big deal with what's being put out there and what students are saying what from a PR perspective on the university standpoint. And we try to get stories that people want out, but there's only so much that we can put out because students will say we need to cut this story, or we can't put this in, and under advisement we have to pick and choose what stories we can or cannot include.
Maddie Ortiz, Director of Campus Activities, explains that although they've tried their best to allow students to report on what they find important and even putting their own opinions out there, they worry students are not telling both sides of the story. Ortiz must do her best to make sure students are properly researching an issue before it is published in an article, and also make sure the school is not reflected negatively.
So I remember that there was something that was written or that was inaccurate or whatever the case may be right around the time that the Golisano building and Mr. Golisano was going to be on campus or whatever. So that particular thing could hurt the university or could have hurt the university. And from your perspective, or from a student perspective, you don't always just report the positive, right? You report everything. Ultimately, I don't disagree with that. But as a private institution, and we rely on certain things, if you're going to put something in the face of a person who just gave us $10 million, do we want to lose that $10 million?
Ortiz goes on to explain that certain cases of censorship are the exception and not the norm.
Sometimes you have to balance the importance of the greater good of all students here. Now, because we're a private institution, you could possibly manage that better than you could at a public institution. Right or wrong? Ultimately, probably from a journalistic perspective, it's wrong.
The Ridge Report, a student-run newscast, is a form of media relations delivering campus news on a bi-weekly basis. Since it was first created in 2011, the Ridge Report has been a great learning tool for students interested in communication studies. Students are awarded the opportunity to dip their feet into all areas of production.
We're more public relations. We're not really investigating anything. We're kind of just basically relaying the news from what has happened in the past 2 weeks that kind of Niagara puts on for us, and we just tell the student body what we've been doing and what.
Also, in a sense, this is also good for like prospective students who think they might be wanting to come to Niagara. They can see like what's going on here and like what events we put on as well, which might help them in their decision of choosing a college.
Positive PR is important for college universities and necessary to have. However, it is equally important to have a space where student issues are given a voice.
I wish we could overall have like a larger newscast on this campus.
Yeah, even if it's like something different from the Ridge Report, it would be probably better if we had, or even in addition to the Ridge Report, have like something that people can express like their discontent with the school or discontent with how the running of the school actually is.
Censorship comes in many forms, from flat out rejecting a story to what might seem like harmless new policy. In most cases, it comes down to funding. When publications rely on the school to fund their operation, there are unwritten rules that follow. But that's not to say there aren't exceptions. Buffalo State College's newspaper, The Record, has managed to maintain an unrestricted student voice despite the funding they receive.
There certainly are instances where some students in the student government will come to us and be like, well, you can't print this, we fund you. And we say, well, no, I mean, this is something that the students should know that's going on, and they're paying for it. Ultimately, it's the student body's money. And so we're putting together a service for the student body is kind of how you see it. They're paying for our service to show them everything that they need to know every week.
Brandon and the rest of his staff at The Record hold frequent pitch meetings. During their story selection process, they are open to reporting on anything and everything deemed important to students.
Students have a unique opportunity to try out a lot of things and experiment with a lot of new ideas. And it's important for students to be able to express themselves in that way, if not only for the fact that they can get feedback and they can, learn what other people think as well. And that can then, inform their opinions as they go forward into the world after graduation. And, it could very well influence the way they contribute to society.
While The Record has achieved a successful balance between administrative control and free discourse, other colleges have taken a different route to becoming entirely independent. The Spectrum, University at Buffalo's student news publication, has functioned independently as the voice of UB students. Funded by advertisements, the Spectrum is not bound by administrative restrictions and can serve as a true reflection of student expression.
We generally try to cover everything students are talking about. Anything that applies to students, that's what we cover. We try to stay away from the boring things like administration, unless there's something corrupt going on. We don't really want to report on Senate meetings or faculty gatherings. We want to report more on what students really care about.
Recently, senior news editor Lisa Corey took on a 6-month-long investigation into the dangerous off-campus housing community known as the Heights.
Buffalo Police has been saying that crime is on a decline in the University Heights district, but her stats showed that it declined and then went back up, and now it's as bad as it's ever been there. And so we talked to a lot of students, a lot of administrators, and people who care about the issue, and just got this overall composite idea that students are just terrified living there. There are housing violations, there's hardened raw sewage in some of their houses. It's just like a slum now. So we tried to get that idea, and we didn't go in with that idea prevalent. We didn't go in thinking, oh, we're gonna nail UB, we're gonna talk about how bad it is there. But that's the vibe that we got from everyone we talked to, so we just put our opinions out there.
According to Lisa, she has received a lot of heat for the article, claiming that it paints a negative image of the school. Still, administration has not been able to take down her article since none of the information has been proven untrue.
As a student journalist who has no censorship at my paper, like, I was able to draw attention to this issue that affects so many students. If something's wrong at someone's school and no one's helping them, like, I felt like the only way to draw attention to it was by, I guess, publishing it in a paper and making the school feel pressured in the public eye, because that's what all schools care about, is how they look. You know what I'm saying? Their public image.
Our university president twice declined an interview with the Spectrum, so he was really silent on the issue, and we talked to another higher up named Dennis Black, and his quotes were all along the lines of, we're not in the protection business, we're not guardian angels. They're saying UB students have to take care of themselves.
I feel like I affected UB's public image, especially because Channel 4 got a hold of it, and they not only interviewed me on TV, but they interviewed one of the higher ups. So now UB feels this pressure to do something about 3,000 students who are affected by the situation every day. Before, there was no pressure.
The Heights of Fear article is a prime example of student journalism that can make a difference. Lisa and others at the Spectrum hope that the article will draw more attention to the issue in the Heights and even promote changes. In an effort to avoid administrative restrictions, colleges across the globe are becoming independent. This is more achievable nowadays than it was ever before, due to the advancement of the World Wide Web. St. Bonaventure University, a private institution located in Allegheny, New York, faced many challenges with their student news publication on campus. Rather than fighting administration, students took to the web to create The Intrepid, an independent student-run blog site.
The content is kind of different, where we have our freedom to report on what we want, whereas at the Bonaventure, we would look at the university's news releases and go off of what they want. So once we saw a news release, we're going to do a story on that and then talk to the people who were in charge of that. Whereas the Intrepid will dig deeper for news stories such as why Bonaventure Square hasn't started for the last 20 years.
The internet can connect users instantly across any distance. Social media sites such as Facebook and Twitter can even serve as a way of delivering news content. Blog sites like WordPress and Tumblr become breeding grounds for independent news sites. Although censorship is an undeniable setback, the future of student journalism is anything but bleak. As more students begin to recognize their potential to inform, educate, and promote change on campus, the more they will fight for an alternative way to reach the student body.
People deserve to know the truth and what's going on. I mean, people pay thousands of dollars for their college education, and sometimes even more than that.
So journalism is the nitty-gritty, getting out what people need to know, not just if the university president's okay with it. If they need to know it, they need to know it.
When you're doing something and you're restricted in doing so, it kind of feels like you're being dragged and you're not being able to exercise your full potential.
Because I have friends all over the country in Fordham, USC. I can just see how they don't really like writing for their own paper. They've actually started their own blogs, a lot of them, and some of them are monetizing their blogs just because they have their own voice that's not censored. They control what they write. And I think that's where this is going in terms of just the whole industry.
No, I can't run away.